Alright, listen up, future warriors. We're not here to talk about textbook theories or hypothetical scenarios. Today, we're diving into the real deal, the rules of engagement RO. These aren't just dusty regulations. They're the code that separates heroes from villains on the battlefield. Imagine this. You're in the heart of a firefight, bullets whizzing past your head, and chaos erupting all around you. In the split second you have to make a decision. Your knowledge of the RO could mean the difference between a justified victory and a tragic mistake. We're not just talking about avoiding friendly fire here. We're talking about protecting civilians, respecting cultural heritage, and upholding the honor of our armed forces. Think of it like this. Would you be the soldier who accidentally bombs a school, or the one who guides a village to safety? Today, we'll break down the RO in a way that makes sense for the modern battlefield. We'll look at real-world examples, learn from the triumphs and mistakes of history, and equip you with the knowledge you need to fight with precision, integrity, and courage. So strap in, because this isn't just another lecture. This is your guide to becoming a warrior who fights not just to win, but to win right. Rules of engagement. The warrior's code. In the theater of war, chaos can easily reign. To maintain order, focus, and honor, every warrior culture throughout history has developed a code, the rules of engagement RO. Think of it as the referee's whistle on the battlefield. These rules guide us in our mission to protect our country and people while minimizing unnecessary harm and upholding our values. Just as the Spartans had their Goge and the samurai their Bushido, we have our RO. The purpose of RO is clear: to ensure our actions align with our mission. This means staying focused on protecting our homeland, minimizing civilian casualties and property damage, and upholding our reputation as honorable warriors. Imagine the Battle of Moktan, where Lapu-Lapu strategically chose his battlefield and tactics to defend his people. His understanding of engagement mirrored our modern ROE, prioritizing the protection of his community while achieving his military objectives. To effectively navigate the complexities of conflict, we must understand the key terms. Combatant. This refers to anyone actively engaged in fighting. Kun Sila Kabalang SA Armed Forces of the Philippines. AFP. Philippine National Police PNP. Oenyamang Grupong Sumasalungit sa Atin. They are the opposing players on the battlefield. Civilian. These are individuals not directly involved in combat. They are like the spectators at a game, and our duty is to protect them at all costs. During World War II, the Geneva Conventions were established to protect civilians and those who were no longer fighting, underscoring the universal importance of safeguarding non-combatants. Military objective. Any resource that contributes to the enemy's fighting capability, such as military bases, weapon depots, or even civilian buildings repurposed for military use. These are legitimate targets in warfare. Civilian object. This encompasses anything not utilized for military purposes, like homes, schools, or hospitals. These are off-limits and must be protected, unless the enemy transforms them into military objectives. Remember, the lines between these terms can blur. A school, for instance, can become a military objective if the enemy uses it as a base of operations. This is why it's crucial to stay vigilant and adaptable, always aware of the changing dynamics of the battlefield. The RO are not just rules. They are the principles that define us as warriors. By adhering to them, we not only ensure victory, but also uphold our values and safeguard the innocent. Cultural objects, more than just artifacts. In every corner of the world, from the Great Wall of China to the Banao Rice Terraces here in the Philippines, historical monuments, artwork, and places of worship stand as testaments to human creativity and spirituality. These are cultural objects, and the rules of engagement dictate that they must be protected. Just as the Nazis systematically looted art during World War II, violating these principles, we must uphold the sanctity of these sites, ensuring they are not used for military purposes nor become targets of hostility. Remember, we are not just soldiers. We are also guardians of our shared heritage. Civilian population, the heart of our nation. Civilians are not just numbers. They are the very heart of the nation we are sworn to protect. Even if a few combatants hide within a civilian population, it doesn't change the civilian character of the group. During the Philippine-American War, General Emilio Aguinaldo emphasized the importance of safeguarding civilians, ordering his troops to respect non-combatants and avoid unnecessary destruction of property. This principle echoes in our ROTC today. Rule of proportionality, balancing force and impact. The use of force must always be carefully weighed against the expected military advantage. Indiscriminate attacks that cause excessive civilian casualties or damage are not only morally reprehensible, but also strategically counterproductive. The Battle of Passchendaele in World War I, where hundreds of thousands of soldiers died for minimal territorial gain, stands as a stark reminder of the consequences of disproportionate force. Our goal is to neutralize the threat, not to inflict unnecessary suffering. General quarters, ready for anything. When the alarm sounds for general quarters, it's not just a drill. It's a call to action, a moment when every crew member springs into their battle stations, ready to defend our ship and our comrades. Think of Admiral Togo Haihachiro at the Battle of Tsushima. His meticulous preparation and the unwavering readiness of his fleet led to a decisive victory against a numerically superior Russian force. Like Togo's sailors, we must be prepared to face any challenge with unwavering resolve. These rules aren't just abstract concepts. They are the guiding principles that separate us from those who engage in wanton destruction. By adhering to them, we not only uphold our duty as soldiers, but also contribute to a more just and humane world. The eyes and ears of the battlefield, fire support and coordination. In the heat of battle, accurate and timely fire support can turn the tide. But it's not just about firepower. It's about precision and coordination. Spotter, the battlefield conductor. Think of the spotter as the conductor of an orchestra, guiding the musicians to create a harmonious symphony. In our case, the symphony is the coordinated application of firepower. The spotter, whether a forward observer foe, forward air controller FAC, or forward air guide FAG, observes where the shots land and directs corrections to ensure we hit the target. They also decide what type of ammunition and fuses to use, much like a conductor choosing the right instruments for a particular piece. In World War II, the Alamo Scouts played a crucial role as spotters for the U.S. forces, providing vital intelligence and guiding artillery fire to support ground operations. Fire support, more than just guns blazing. Fire support isn't just about unleashing a barrage of bullets or bombs. It's about using air-launched fire to strategically support ground and naval units. It's the difference between chaotic shooting and a well-orchestrated attack. Imagine the Battle of Britain, where the Royal Air Force used coordinated fire support to defend their homeland against the Luftwaffe. Free fire area, no fire area, and fire coordination area, the battlefield zones. To avoid friendly fire and protect civilians, we designate specific areas on the battlefield. Free fire area. Here, we can unleash firepower without asking for permission, as long as we're targeting known or suspected enemy forces. No fire area. This is a strictly off-limits zone. We cannot fire into this area under any circumstances, as it may contain friendly forces, civilians, or critical infrastructure. Think of hospitals and schools. These are typically designated as no-fire areas. Fire coordination area. This is a zone where we can fire, but only with specific restrictions. Any fire missions exceeding these restrictions require approval from higher command. This ensures that we use firepower responsibly and minimize the risk of unintended consequences. Imagine these areas as different zones in a game. Each zone has its own rules, and understanding these rules is crucial for victory. During the Vietnam War, the U.S. military used fire coordination areas to protect civilians while still maintaining pressure on the enemy. In the chaos of battle, these terms and concepts might seem abstract. But remember, they are the tools we use to coordinate our actions, protect our own, and achieve our mission. Understanding them isn't just about passing a test. It's about mastering the art of war. Rules of engagement. The warrior's path on the ground. VI. The ground rules. Fighting with honor. Warfare is not about unrestrained brutality. It is a complex dance of strategy, tactics, and most importantly, ethics. Our rules of engagement guide us on this path. 1. Conduct of operations. The art of war. A. Choosing our weapons wisely. Think of Sun Tzu, the ancient Chinese military strategist. He taught that the art of war is about outsmarting the enemy, not just overwhelming them with force. We must carefully choose our methods, avoiding unnecessary violence and prioritizing the protection of civilians. Minimizing suffering. In the samurai code of Bushido, compassion was a core virtue. Similarly, we are prohibited from using excessive force or inflicting unnecessary suffering. Our goal is to neutralize the enemy, not to engage in gratuitous violence. See human shields, a coward's tactic. We must never use civilians as shields. It's a cowardly tactic that endangers innocent lives and violates our principles. Knowing the difference, we must always distinguish between combatants and civilians, as well as military and civilian objects. This is crucial for ensuring that our actions are targeted and proportionate. Protecting the innocent, the protection of civilians and their property is paramount. Even in the midst of chaos, we must remain mindful of their safety, taking every precaution to minimize harm. Proportionality, a balancing act. Every action we take must be proportionate to the military advantage we seek to gain. Just as the ancient Greek concept of golden mean emphasized moderation, we must strike a balance between achieving our objectives and minimizing collateral damage. Terrorism, a weapon of the weak. Instilling terror in civilians is not a sign of strength. It is a sign of weakness and desperation. We condemn such tactics and strive to uphold the dignity and security of all individuals. No quarter, a forbidden practice, denying the enemy surrender, or threatening to kill all survivors is a violation of our values and international law. We offer a chance to surrender, demonstrating our commitment to humane warfare. Stratagems, the art of deception. While perfidy, treachery under the guise of surrender is forbidden, we can use clever strategies to mislead the enemy. Think of the Trojan horse, a classic example of deception used to gain a strategic advantage. Working together, collaboration with civilian authorities is essential for minimizing civilian casualties and damage. By working together, we can ensure that our actions are not only effective but also responsible and ethical. These rules are not just restrictions. They are a roadmap to conducting warfare with honor and integrity. By upholding these principles, we ensure that our actions reflect the best of our values, even in the most challenging of circumstances. Rules of engagement, mastering the art of attack. 2. Conduct of attack, precision and purpose. In the chaos of conflict, every attack must be deliberate and purposeful. It's not about brute force. It's about surgical precision and minimizing collateral damage. Defined objectives. Think of the Battle of Thermopylae, where the Spartans held off a massive Persian army by focusing on a narrow pass. Like them, we must clearly identify and designate our military objectives before launching an attack. Choosing wisely. If multiple targets offer similar military advantages, we must select the one that poses the least risk to civilians. Remember, we are warriors, not destroyers. Avoiding cluster targets. Imagine a crowded marketplace. Would you throw a grenade into it? Of course not. Similarly, attacking a cluster of military targets within a civilian area is forbidden, as it would endanger too many innocent lives. Timing is key. Just as ninja warriors use the cover of darkness for their missions, we must carefully choose the timing of our attacks to minimize civilian casualties. For instance, attacking a factory after working hours reduces the risk of harming workers. The right tool for the job. Imagine using a sledgehammer to crack a nut. The same principle applies to warfare. We must select the appropriate weapons and ammunition for each target, considering their destructive power and potential impact on the environment. The Battle of Dien Bien Phu is a reminder of how the wrong choice of weapons can lead to disastrous consequences. These guidelines aren't just about following orders. They're about making smart, ethical decisions on the battlefield. Every attack should be a calculated move, not a reckless gamble. By adhering to these rules, we can achieve our objectives while minimizing harm to innocent lives and upholding our values as protectors of the nation. Rules of engagement, targeting with precision and care. 3. Precautions in targeting. More than just pointing and shooting. Targeting is not a game of chance. It's a carefully calculated process with potentially life-altering consequences. The same meticulous approach we take in selecting military objectives applies to targeting them. Understanding the impact, Every weapon has a unique effect on its target. Think of the difference between a sniper rifle and an artillery barrage. We must understand these effects to choose the right weapon for the job. Be the commander's responsibility. The decision of which weapon to use rests with the commander, who must weigh the potential risks and benefits. This is a heavy burden, similar to that borne by General von Nguyen Giap, the brilliant military strategist who led the Vietnamese forces to victory against the French at Dien Bien Phu. His decisions not only impacted the battle, but also shaped the course of history. 100. Warning the civilians. When possible, we must warn civilians of impending attacks to give them a chance to seek shelter. This could be through leaflets dropped from aircraft, announcements over loudspeakers, or other means. Remember, every decision we make on the battlefield has consequences. By adhering to these precautions in targeting, we demonstrate our commitment to precision, responsibility, and the protection of innocent lives. Rules of engagement. The art of strategic defense. Conduct of defense. Protecting our own. When defending our territory, our primary focus is on safeguarding both our forces and the civilian population. Remember, we are not just warriors. We are also guardians of our people and our heritage. A strategic positioning. Defense should ideally be organized outside populated areas. Think of the Battle of Tirad Pass, where Filipino forces strategically positioned themselves in a narrow mountain pass to defend against a larger American force. Similarly, we must choose defensive positions that minimize the risk to civilians. Minimizing risk. If several defensive positions offer similar advantages, we must select the one that poses the least danger to civilians and their property. It's about making tactical decisions that prioritize the well-being of those we are sworn to protect. During the Zamboanga City siege in 2013, the armed forces of the Philippines carefully planned their operations to minimize harm to the civilian population caught in the crossfire. See counterattacks with precision. When launching counterattacks, we must adhere to the same rules we followed during offensive operations. This ensures that our actions remain proportionate and targeted, even in the heat of battle. Evacuation with compassion. If civilians need to be evacuated, we must guide them to safe locations they are familiar with. Just as the Japanese government implemented evacuation drills to prepare civilians for potential air raids. During World War II, we must ensure the well-being of those under our care. Safeguarding civilian property. We must take steps to relocate civilian property, such as vehicles and livestock, away from military objectives. This minimizes the risk of damage and demonstrates our respect for the belongings of others. Early warning. Whenever possible, we should give civilians advance warning of defense measures that may affect them. This could involve evacuating specific houses, military bases, or issuing alerts about potential danger zones. This proactive approach empowers civilians to take necessary precautions and minimize risks. Protecting cultural heritage. We must protect cultural objects unless absolutely necessary for mission success. Even then, we should give advance warning to allow for safeguarding measures. Think of the historic city of Dubrovnik, which was severely damaged during the Croatian War of Independence despite its status as a UNESCO World Heritage Site. We must learn from such tragedies and strive to protect cultural heritage whenever possible. Remember, a successful defense is not just about holding our ground. It's about protecting the people and heritage that make our nation worth fighting for. By adhering to these principles, we can ensure that our actions reflect our commitment to both military effectiveness and the well-being of our fellow citizens. Rules of engagement. Mastering small unit operations. Small unit operations. Adapting to the terrain. In the thick of the jungle or the heart of a bustling city, small unit operations require adaptability and a keen awareness of our surroundings. It's about striking a balance between decisive action and protecting the innocent. Unleashing firepower in unpopulated areas. When engaging the enemy in remote areas, away from civilians, we can unleash the full force of our combat power. Think of the fierce jungle battles fought by Filipino guerrillas against the Japanese during World War II, where they utilized their knowledge of the terrain to their advantage. Caution in populated areas. When insurgents attack us in populated areas, we must return fire with caution. This means using proportionate force and carefully selecting our targets to minimize collateral damage. Remember the Marawi siege, where the armed forces of the Philippines prioritized the safety of trapped civilians even as they fought to regain control of the city. See Venus flytrap tactics. This tactic involves luring the enemy into a pre-selected battleground. We must choose these sites away from civilian areas to avoid putting innocent lives at risk. Think of the Battle of Salgakar in Goa, India, where the Portuguese lured the Bijapur Sultanate forces into a well-prepared ambush, showcasing the effectiveness of choosing the right battleground. D. Raids with restraint. During raids on insurgent hideouts, we must do our best to spare unarmed civilians, especially women and children. This echoes the principles of the Geneva Conventions, which emphasize the protection of non-combatants in times of war. During the Mindanao conflict, the AFP has made efforts to rescue civilians from conflict zones and provide humanitarian assistance. Remember, small unit operations require flexibility and a nuanced understanding of the environment. By adapting our tactics to the specific situation, we can achieve our objectives, while minimizing harm to civilians and upholding our commitment to protecting the innocent. Rules of engagement. Raining fire responsibly. Indirect fire support guidelines. Power with precision. Indirect fire, like artillery and mortar, can be a game changer on the battlefield. But with great power comes great responsibility. These guidelines ensure we use this firepower effectively and ethically. Artillery, a commander's call. Artillery, with its long range and devastating power, requires careful authorization. Only a commander at the brigade or regimental level can approve its use. Think of it like calling in an airstrike. It's not a decision to be taken lightly. During the Battle of Ypres in World War I, the massive artillery barrages caused widespread devastation, highlighting the need for careful authorization of such powerful weapons. The mortar, battalion commander's discretion. Mortar, with their shorter range and greater flexibility, are at the discretion of the battalion commander. It's like having a powerful tool in your toolbox, but you need to know when and how to use it effectively. In modern Philippine military history, mortar have been instrumental in providing fire support to ground troops during counterinsurgency operations, such as those against the Abu Sayyaf group. See preparation fires, softening the target. Before launching an attack, we can use preparation fires to soften up enemy positions. But this requires approval from a higher-ranking commander, ensuring that the potential benefits outweigh the risks. This tactic was effectively used during the Battle of Mogadishu in Somalia, where U.S. forces used artillery fire to weaken enemy positions before launching a ground assault. Emergency fire support, when time is of the essence. In dire situations where a unit or critical installation is under immediate threat, the unit commander can authorize the use of fire support without waiting for higher approval. However, this is a last resort, and every effort must be made to minimize civilian casualties and damage. This principle was put to the test during the Zamboanga city siege, where the AFP had to respond quickly to protect civilians caught in the crossfire. Restrictions on firepower. Protecting the innocent. There are limits to the use of artillery and mortar. We cannot use them for harassing and interdiction HNI missions, unobserved fire missions, where we can't see the target, or when there's a risk of civilian casualties or damage to populated areas. These restrictions are in place to protect innocent lives and uphold our ethical standards. The indiscriminate bombing of cities during World War II, such as the bombing of Dresden, serves as a stark reminder of the importance of these restrictions. These guidelines are not just rules. They are a moral compass that guides our use of firepower. By adhering to them, we ensure that we use our weapons responsibly, effectively, and ethically. Rules of engagement at sea. Navigating naval warfare. Naval forces, guardians of the waves. Engaging the enemy at sea. It's not just about pirates. Naval warfare is a whole different game. Instead of trenches and terrain, we have vast oceans and high-tech vessels. But the rules of engagement still apply, ensuring we fight with precision and honor. Military objectives only. Not every ship is a target. We can only attack vessels that are clearly military objectives. This could include enemy warships, ships carrying military supplies, or those actively engaging in combat. Remember, it's like a naval chess match. We need to make strategic moves, not just fire at anything that floats. Assessing suspicious craft. When we encounter a suspicious vessel, We must carefully assess the situation. Are there any indications that the craft is hostile or capable of fighting? Are there women, children, or non-combatants on board? Think of it like a detective gathering clues before making an arrest. See challenging with caution. If a craft seems suspicious, we issue a challenge. This could involve flashing lights, sounding sirens, or even firing warning shots. However, we must always be prepared to intercept and engage if the situation escalates. Remember the Battle of Leyte Gulf, where the U.S. Navy successfully challenged and defeated a larger Japanese fleet through decisive action. D. General Quarters, ready for battle. Before challenging any contact, our ships must be at General Quarters, meaning all crew members are at their battle stations and the ship is prepared for combat. Think of it like a boxer entering the ring. We need to be ready for anything. Intercepting and apprehending. If the suspicious craft complies with our challenge and stops, we approach with caution, board the vessel, and conduct a search. If no violations are found, the craft is released with a boarding certificate. If violations are found, we apprehend the crew and seize any contraband. If the individuals are confirmed insurgents, we hand them over to the appropriate authorities. This is similar to the Philippine Navy's ongoing efforts to intercept and apprehend vessels involved in illegal activities such as smuggling and piracy. Remember, naval warfare requires a unique set of skills and strategies. By understanding and following these rules, we can ensure that we maintain our naval dominance while upholding our commitment to protecting innocent lives and property at sea. Rules of engagement at sea, advanced tactics and firepower. Here's a deeper discussion into naval rules of engagement, covering more complex scenarios and the responsible use of naval gunfire. 2. Engaging the enemy at sea, escalation and escape. Attempt to escape or evade. If a suspicious craft ignores our warnings and tries to flee, especially at high speeds 20 knots or more in restricted areas, we may disable it with fire. However, we must also prioritize the rescue of any casualties and provide medical attention. This scenario mirrors the challenges faced by the Philippine Navy in pursuing fast-moving pirate vessels in the Sulu Sea. Hostile fire. If the suspicious craft opens fire on us, we respond with force to neutralize the threat. This is self-defense, but we must still prioritize rescuing casualties and providing aid. Remember, even in combat, we uphold our humanitarian values. Women and children aboard. In the unfortunate event that women and children are present on a hostile craft, we use precision fire to disable the vessel while minimizing harm to innocent passengers. This reflects the principles of the Geneva Conventions, which prioritize the protection of non-combatants. See handling apprehensions. After apprehending individuals or vessels, we follow established policies and procedures. Captured enemy personnel must be treated humanely and given necessary medical care, even if they were hostile. This aligns with the practices of navies worldwide, including the Philippine Navy, which adheres to international standards of treatment for detainees. 3. Naval gunfire and GF. Rules for shore bombardment. Area commander's approval. Firing naval guns at targets on land requires authorization from the area commander, ensuring that such actions align with the overall strategic goals and minimize unintended consequences. The immediate threat. If friendly forces are in immediate danger, and there's no time to seek approval, the naval commander can authorize NGF to protect them. This reflects the need for flexibility in dynamic combat situations. See spotters and support. When enemy forces are identified ashore, NGF can be used to support friendly ground forces, but only with a qualified spotter to direct the fire accurately. This coordination is crucial for avoiding friendly fire and minimizing civilian casualties. Detargeting enemy concentrations. In clear areas, we can directly target and neutralize the enemy with NGF. In populated areas, we may use fire to achieve a psychological advantage over the enemy, but we must prioritize the safety of civilians. If our line of fire puts civilians at risk, we must cease fire. The protection of innocent lives is paramount. Reporting after action. Every instance of NGF must be reported promptly, both by radio and in a written report. This ensures transparency and accountability in our actions. 4. Safety first. Above all else, the safety of our ships and personnel is our top priority. We must always be vigilant and prepared to defend ourselves while adhering to the rules of engagement. Rules of engagement: air power and precision. Air forces, dominating the skies responsibly. Precision is key. Air power is a force multiplier, but it must be wielded with care. Bombing campaigns like those in World War II, while effective, often resulted in widespread destruction and civilian casualties. Our goal is to use air power strategically, minimizing harm to the population while maximizing our impact on the enemy. No-fire areas, protecting what matters. Certain areas are strictly off-limits to airstrikes. These include a heavily populated areas. Imagine a bomb falling on a crowded city. The devastation would be unimaginable. We must avoid such areas to protect civilians. Think of the Christmas bombing of Hanoi in 1972, which sparked international outrage due to the high number of civilian casualties. The places of worship, churches, mosques, temples. These sacred places are not military targets. They hold cultural and spiritual significance for communities and must be protected. The bombing of the Monte Cassino Abbey during World War II, despite its historical and religious importance, serves as a cautionary tale of the consequences of disregarding such sanctuaries. Fire coordination areas, balancing military necessity and civilian safety. Some areas, like the National Capital Region and other major population centers, are designated as fire coordination areas. This means airstrikes are possible, but only with strict coordination and approval from higher command. Think of it like a safety net, ensuring that military objectives are achieved while minimizing harm to civilians. During the Battle of Manila in 1945, while airstrikes were used to liberate the city from Japanese occupation, the resulting destruction highlighted the need for careful coordination to protect civilian lives. Prioritizing targets, the hierarchy of air support. When providing close air support or conducting battlefield interdiction, we prioritize targets based on their impact on the mission. A priority I. Targets that directly threaten our troops or the mission's success. Think of enemy artillery positions that are shelling our soldiers or enemy reinforcements rushing to the front lines. B. Priority 2. Targets that are actively hindering our progress, such as enemy bunkers or snipers causing significant casualties. C. Priority 3. Targets that could potentially disrupt our plans in the future, like enemy reserve forces preparing for a counterattack. D. Priority 4. Targets with limited impact on the current battle, such as enemy supply lines or rear echelon units. While these targets may not be immediately threatening, their destruction can still contribute to overall victory. Remember, air power is a powerful tool, but it must be used responsibly and ethically. By adhering to these guidelines, we ensure that we harness the full potential of our air forces, while minimizing harm to civilians and upholding our commitment to just warfare. Rules of engagement in the air, precision strikes and tactical support. Calling in air support the right way. Air support is like a precision tool, powerful, but needing careful handling. Here's how to request it. A clearance is key. Any request for air support, whether it's a close air support CAS mission or something else, must be cleared by the area commander. This ensures that the mission aligns with the overall strategy and avoids conflicts with other operations. Think of it like asking permission before using a powerful piece of equipment. It's essential for safety and effectiveness. Be the right aircraft for the job. The CASFP commander will recommend the best type of aircraft and weapons for the mission. They're like the experts at a hardware store, guiding you to the right tools for your specific project. Declaring hostile forces and engaging. Knowing when to fight. Area commander's authority. The decision to declare enemy forces hostile and engage them rests with the area ground commander. This prevents unauthorized actions and ensures that we fight only when necessary. The pilot's discretion during recon. During reconnaissance missions, pilots can take action if they observe hostile acts. If a force isn't identified as friendly, it's considered potentially hostile. If fired upon, our armed aircraft will engage and destroy the threat. This is similar to the rules of engagement for fighter pilots during the Cold War, where they had to make split-second decisions based on the actions of an identified aircraft. See immediate response to unprovoked attacks. If our military personnel, equipment, or installations are attacked without provocation, our Air Force will respond swiftly and aggressively. This is about protecting our own and sending a clear message that aggression will not be tolerated. Close air support restrictions, protecting the innocent. A-bombs and rockets. Using general-purpose bombs 500 pounds or less and rockets requires clearance from the area commander. These are powerful weapons with the potential for widespread damage, so their use must be carefully controlled. The larger bombs, bigger bombs over 500 pounds need clearance from the highest levels of command CSFP, as their impact can be even more devastating. 100 forward air controllers FACs. Pilots can never drop a bomb without clearance from a FAC. FACs are the eyes on the ground, guiding the aircraft to the target, and ensuring that bombs hit their mark while minimizing collateral damage. Think of them like air traffic controllers, but for bombs instead of planes. In the Vietnam War, FACs played a crucial role in directing airstrikes against enemy positions. De-strafing runs, strafing, or attacking with aircraft-mounted guns, is only allowed against known or suspected insurgent targets identified by FACs at the request of ground troops. This ensures that air power is used precisely and effectively in support of ground operations. These rules may seem complex, but they are essential for ensuring that our air power is used responsibly, effectively, and in accordance with our values. By understanding and following these guidelines, we can dominate the skies, while minimizing harm to civilians and upholding our commitment to just warfare. Alright, future warriors, we've covered a lot of ground today, from the trenches to the open sea and up into the skies. But remember, the rules of engagement aren't just a checklist to memorize. They're the code of honor that guides us in every mission, every encounter, every decision we make on the battlefield. We've learned that every bullet, every bomb, every movement matters. Our actions have consequences, not just for our mission, but for the lives of countless civilians and the preservation of our cultural heritage. Precision is key. We don't just aim to win. We aim to win right, by minimizing collateral damage and protecting the innocent. Flexibility is essential. The battlefield is dynamic, and we must adapt our tactics to each unique situation. Respect for humanity is non-negotiable. Even in the midst of conflict, we uphold our values and treat all individuals with dignity and respect. Now, as you step onto the battlefield, remember that you're not just fighting for yourselves, but for every Filipino who dreams of a peaceful and prosperous future. You are the guardians of our nation, the protectors of our freedoms, the embodiment of our unwavering spirit. Your commitment, your courage, your unwavering adherence to these rules of engagement will not only ensure your success in battle, but will also define your legacy as a true Filipino warrior. Go forth with honor, serve with integrity, and fight for a brighter tomorrow.